Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Westgard.
Yep.
Boltman.
Yep.
Cleveland.
Here.
Reese.
Yes.
Huss. Here. Thank you.
Here.
Okay, no public forum. We'll move on to consent agenda. Any additions or corrections?
Nope.
A motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second. Oh, excuse me.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Stankin.
Yes.
Huss. Yes. Reese. Cleveland.
Yes.
Boltman.
Yep.
Okay, we'll now open the public hearing for the proposed amendment to the budget. Any input from anybody, Scott?
I have received no comments on the budget amendment. And the proposed budget amendment it's the same thing that we reviewed at the last city council. So I would just open that up to any questions from the council?
Looks like none. Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Okay.
And we have Resolution 1420. The city budget amendment.
Move we approve the amended budget.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Boltman.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Huss. Yes. Stankin.
Yes.
Cleveland.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna talk about ATVs on the city streets. We did this because we wanted to get what the council felt, which way they wanted to go. So we have Scott, or Ted and Jim here if we have any questions from the council about doing ATVs on city streets.
Is this just ATVs or is it go-karts? Or pop-up lawnmowers?
Counties going for like utility vehicles, ATVs.
What they are then is, there's a definition of them here, but those are the real ATVs or UTVs, and those are then all registered through the DNR. So they're all registered vehicles.
So you can register them now, so they are street legal?
No, not street legal. I'm gonna go through what we have right now, and let's just walk through a few things, and it'll be starting on page 6. Where we have definitions of what we have for ATVs. This definition of off-road motorcycle doesn't really apply too much, but it's in there. And then we have this off-road utility vehicles. One of the big differences there being ATVs, more than traditional ATVs, 3 or 4 wheels with a seat that you straddle. And then the off-road utility vehicles then is side-by-side, has a bench seat or bucket seats, usually side-by-side. You don't straddle the seat. Okay, and the way things are written in our code, a lot of this stuff also applies to snowmobiles. So there's a snowmobile definition there too. But 7503 is our general regulation that no person can operate an ATV, motorcycle, or a UTV in the city.
You bet.
In violation of the state code. Okay, and here's as we work down here, I'll show you. But the stuff on ATVs on the bottom of page 8, operation of all-terrain vehicles. The main thing there is the operation of them on streets, that it can only be done in accordance with section 321.234A of the Code of Ordinance, which this is the one that stipulates how things can be used. And this is the one where they give the exemption to be able to use for ag use. And that's always been the main use of these on the highways, is that it's been allowed for ag use. But there's also a provision, there's some other things about, surveyors can use them, utility crews can use them, people maintaining trails can use them. But then there's another section that it is allowed if on regulations that are consistent with what the city wants, as in the city can designate streets where they could be operated. And then the same thing for the county. So that's, the county would operate under this, that they would be designating certain streets that it could run on, which I think is all of them. I don't know that they were picking and choosing. This one, an ATV, you can operate it on the highway if you have a valid driver's license, that's state law. And then speeds of 35 miles an hour or less, and there's a lot of times then that can be violated very easily now, so. And this does have scheduled fine. Scheduled fine with this, scheduled fine is $50. So, that's our main regulation in regards to ATVs, and it just basically says, you can't operate them on the streets. Then it goes on to say, can't operate them on snowmobile trails, can't operate them in the city parks or on other city land, and you can't operate them on the sidewalk or in the area, the city parking area between the sidewalk and the street. If you really look at this, it's kind of tight about allowance for use of ATVs. There's not much allowance really at all.
Well, do we have a big problem with that, don't we? You think?
I don't think we really have a problem with it. I think this came about originally because more of the county rather than the cities, because the farmers are allowed to do it now, and they're just trying to give everybody the same opportunity the farmers have, and they're, so they see it a lot more out in the county. And then, the state has actually been talking about, some of the states around us already, they license just like a vehicle. So they're,
You're talking about that,
yeah, they've been talking about it for years, it just never has happened. And according to the sheriff, the city of Odebolt did pass one, I haven't seen their ordinance, and then also Crawford County has an ordinance on it already. And the one thing that we did look at when I was at the meeting with the county was, the ordinance Crawford County has also states they have to be 18 years of age with a valid driver's license.
And proof of insurance.
And proof of insurance. And I think what the last they had talked about, if they decided to go with this, they were gonna go with one that was pretty much the same as what Crawford County has now.
so you can, they can be insured even though they're not a licensed?
Yeah. Because that's what they're going to
Years
do.
ago,
They're
we
going
tried to
to,
get insurance.
what they'll
on them,
actually do,
and-
and right now they are licensed, you get stickers for them just like a snowmobile
Oh.
sticker, but they're just not licensed for being on the highway, but they are technically not licensed, registered.
So this county ordinance, is that just for county roads, right?
County roads only.
Right.
Everything but state highways. You can cross a state highway, but you can't go down it.
So you couldn't really go around the lake there because that's a state highway, right?
Well, and that's one of the issues is if we can get it as a city ordinance, if it's patrolled by the city and maintained by the city, maybe the county's gonna go along with their section. If it all passes, and you could talk to the state patrol and see what kind of leniency would have in city limits, even though it's state road, but yet
With ours,
maintained by the city and patrolled by the city also, maybe that would happen, but Crawford County's already passed it. The county's actually going to the cities and trying to get it opened up to the cities. If you're a farmer and you wanna ride your ATV to town and have lunch or get gas or whatever, if you're not going in your direct path, it's against the law, but, they're pushing it big time. Crawford County's already passed it, pushing it in their cities. A lot, in other counties have already passed this regulation. And as Ted said, a lot of states, you go to Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, even Nebraska, South Dakota, you can drive them just like you can any other vehicle on the road.
I kinda wanted to take my golf cart around the lake, and they kinda guided me towards the DOT. It was all right with them, why then, would drive you no problem.
Well, right now, if you have a place at Dixieland and you wanna, and your boat's in the marina, which is across the street, you can't pull over
Can't
there.
go over there, yeah.
You can't drive over there and drop your cooler and your gear off and get out, as the way it is now.
But just understand that's state law, that's not our law, that's state law, and we can't do anything to supersede that as far as regulation.
But if you get some of these vehicles so that you can ride them in town, they might be a little more, it's a tourist town. I mean, if you're at the trailer park and you can't drive across the road to drop your stuff off, I think we're deterring people from
The only thing I can say that would be a problem with is some of them vehicles, like, in two-seaters,
Yeah,
they'll go 75 mile an hour.
yeah, but, so will your car. I mean,
Sure.
you drive at the speed
And then
limit.
if they do that, then they get a ticket.
Right, I mean, you'd get a ticket just like you can in your car. If you're doing 40 mile an hour on the lake and the speed limit's 25, I think you'd get a ticket.
Right.
You're gonna get it in your car, so why wouldn't you get it on the ATV or utility vehicle?
How close is the county, Sac County, to making this happen?
I haven't talked
I
to
haven't talked to them
Dean.
since we had the meeting, but
I talked to Dean once since, and they're still working through the draft, you know, and checking things out. When we were there, the supervisor, I didn't hear one supervisor that was
it
against it.
sounded like they were all.
And the
were
sheriff
trying
was
to
for
do
it,
whatever
you
they
know,
could.
so.
Yes, the only thing that I heard was that if something would be implemented, that it be consistent with the communities and the county.
Well, that part seems to me to make sense, that everybody have a consistent law.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
They have to,
Yeah, you gotta have the same all throughout the county, or otherwise it doesn't make no
Yeah.
sense.
So basically, I probably, guess, if I'm reading this right, we gotta see what the county, what they come out with the county, what their rules and regulations are,
right.
and then we have to take a look at it and see how, if we wanna continue it or not continue it, or whatever might be
Is
the
this,
case.
yeah,
But,
make this, or is this?
but at least have an idea what's,
Yeah, Dean's got it.
because I don't
Came
think,
from the county.
yeah,
This came from the county? You guys, I mean, the draft they have is this.
they haven't passed this yet, though, have they?
No, they have not, no.
Okay,
The other thing that struck me on this was that it's only written to apply to utility vehicles. It doesn't say anything about ATVs.
I think they're putting it in the same class, though. I mean, they didn't designate one from the other, make it, classified it as a utility.
Just want to make sure that it
Right. And you'd have
fulfills
to
what
ask,
you want it to be, because
Yeah.
the definition they have in there would exclude the ATVs.
yeah.
Would they have a slow-moving vehicle sign on the back then too, or?
I don't think they would probably have to.
Wouldn't have to, because they can travel 25 miles an hour. I mean, they have tail lights,
They
brake
would be
lights,
exempt from the
headlights.
flag also, they wouldn't
Yeah.
flag, like a snowmobile.
Anything
But
that-
the way I understood it when we talked to them at the meeting, if they decided to go along with this, they were gonna draft one up pretty much the same. They wanted to be consistent with Crawford County, which the one they've got.
The only thing that I saw different from Crawford County to what they were talking about in SAC was they were gonna charge an additional fee in Crawford County. And the guys up there just acted like they,
And they really didn't.
as long as it
know what
registered, they weren't looking to make money on it. They were,
Yeah.
but Crawford County's actually charging you an additional fee above your registration fee, like a trail pass fee type thing.
They're already doing that down here, you know, for soccer, you know.
Oh, we, like, on snowmobiles, we have registered sleds, but then we also have to buy a trail permit on top of it. That money actually goes back to the state for trail maintenance, so, I mean, it's going towards that. Supposed to be.
Right.
So Ted, if we do this consistent with the county and we do all this, do you see a problem? Are we opening up a can of worms we can't stop, or?
I don't think so. I think, first of all, we're trying to get people to come here and we wanna be a tourist community, and I think you've got a lot of people around the lake and stuff that would use this. Not only that, you're gonna benefit a business that's local, so to me, I just don't understand first of all, I don't understand why this would be a problem when you let a 14-year-old ride a moped on the highway, and I've talked to the state about this in the past couple of years down there, and the reason the state has not adopted this so far is because these vehicles have a stamp on the frame that says not for highway use. So what they're saying is, if they could get the manufacturers just to take that off, not saying they're for the highway or not for the highway, just take that off, they're more worried about the state liability if you allow them to ride on, say, the state highways.
But if you ever took them on the highway, you don't have to wonder why, because they're hard to hold, you know, with that soft tire, them
Well-
flotation tires, they.
Yeah,
With the
they're-
ATVs, but
yeah.
some of the UTVs that they're making.
They got all power steering on all
they'll
stuff
run-
now, so.
They have everything a car has on them.
Yeah, seatbelts, you know,
Yeah.
it's nothing to do, be able to do 70 mile an hour on these things, I mean, if you want to, and they'll handle it. I mean, even on the gravel.
So I guess just
Where
wait.
Ted was saying about that state deal, and I've checked in it too, is the manufacturer puts on the MSO, which is a manufacturer statement of origin, when you get it registered, it says for off-road use only. And the only reason the manufacturer has that on there is for their liability, okay? Because I've asked about it, and they said, we wouldn't have a problem, but they don't. Terry, if you go out there and take your UTV and you have a crash, and they don't want you to come back and sue them because you took it out, you took it on the highway.
Right.
They're just covering their tail. But, as Ted said, you know, I found out myself too, is if the manufacturer would leave that off and not put anything on it, they'd license it. You could go out and get a license plate for it and write it wherever you wanted to. But that's the only reason you can't, because the manufacturer has it on
I can
there.
understand.
There are some vehicles out there already have license plates on it, because some manufacturers have left that off.
I was gonna say, the concern I would have with, is if the highway patrol have select enforcement of it. You know, if we say, oh, come, bring your ATV, come to Lakeview, and you start driving around the lake and highway patrol comes along, writes them out a ticket. I ain't worried about us, but, you know, if, as long as we're meeting up with the county regulations, that's the only concern I would have.
And I don't think you'll see as many ATVs as you will utility vehicles, the side-by-side vehicles. That's the thing that's coming now, even farmers are buying them. In 95% of the utility vehicles that I sell, and I know all the other dealers around, go to farmers. I mean, that's where you're gonna see most of them anyway. I don't think you're gonna see a rush of people going out and spending $15,000 to $20,000 for a utility vehicle to drive around town. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Okay.
Well, we did this just to get a feel from the council. Everybody but Jerry, what do you think? You're gonna have to pick them up.
Not anymore, I quit.
Oh, you're done?
I'm quitting.
Oh, okay.
No, I think it should go, but we need to be consistent.
Right. Well, I guess the best thing to do is wait for the county and see what they do.
Well, just, is it a fair statement to say that the council can be supportive of that, and we,
Right.
I am.
Good.
I
I
would.
don't have a problem
I
with
would
it.
be
You
there.
know, I don't have a problem with it, but, you know.
I think that's really what probably the county.
I think the county's looking for that, for the cities to
Oh, okay.
support,
Okay.
their support, from councils to say, hey, we'll support you if you do it. Because Ted would say the same thing, that there wasn't a supervisor that sat in there that, and county attorney that was against it. And the sheriff, you know, the sheriff, you don't care.
You sure could, I mean, you could have a motion to, show support for this, if you'd like.
Give one motion or just have we have an understanding everybody's on board with what the county
Yeah,
is.
you've got to do it.
I think everybody's on board.
And I think, and Ted will agree with me, is, we've talked about it before, is, you know, when somebody's messing up, crack down on them right away and get it under
Yeah.
control. And having to be 18 years or older may prevent some of the trouble. Hopefully you're an adult and by then you know better, but, I mean, you know, if you got a 16-year-old kid on, it can't be on. I mean, and the laws say that an ATV can only have one person on it unless it's designated for two. I mean, them are the same laws that you, even same with a utility vehicle, if it's only got 2 seats, I wouldn't allow people to ride around with somebody in the back end.
So like that, dirt bikes and that kind of stuff, they're not speed legal anyway.
No.
Not unless they have a license plate on them, someone who have headlights, taillights, then they get licensed.
Because some of them four-wheelers was make, you know, they were higher up for dirt competition.
Yeah, it has to be able to be registered, I mean, with lights and, you know, I was surprised they weren't gonna push the turn signals on
Yeah.
them, which you know, some places have, but.
Okay, we're just going to see what the county
We can
comes
fix
with.
that.
We talked through this here real briefly too, but just that whenever we talk stuff about ATVs, it's just the next step away always deals with golf carts. And because then the next question will be, geez, I can drive my ATV on the road, why can't I drive my golf cart? So just take a look at page 12, I just want to at least make everybody aware of what our regulations are in regards to golf carts. That it's got to be operated by somebody who has a valid driver's license. We do allow them, basically, the state law on this says that they're permissible if the city chooses to have regulation allowing it, which we do. So you gotta have your driver's license. Okay, it can be operated on designated streets, but designated streets are not the state roads. So nothing on the highway. And then the thing about the road around the lake. So, you know, we get the question from time to time, you know, it sure would be nice you can take your golf cart on and ride around the lake. Well, you can't. You know, not
The nursing home takes a, golf carts on it,
or down the trail or around, like, yeah,
They do, yeah.
they've done it before, you know?
I just seen
I
it
didn't
the
say
other
that,
day.
Ted.
Yeah.
That'll make some people happy.
There is kind of a gray area there because it says that if it's maintained by the city, which ours is, technically we maintain the road around the lake, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and take a chance.
Let's go with that.
Okay.
Just like that.
Take my feet out, man.
And the equipment, 7704, slow-moving vehicle, bicycle flag, brakes, those are all required by the state. The one thing that we've done that's any different at all is that we require brake lengths. Time of operation from sunrise to sunset, and you do have to register your golf cart with the police department. And it costs $2 per year to get your registration, and then you can drive it on the streets.
That's a deal breaker, ain't it?
Yeah.
But you'd think that we would have better cooperation with you.
$2.
Because, boy, I think we have 2 or 3 permits, you know, I think we don't have very many.
I bought one,
You pay your
got my
renewal
numbers.
fee,
Yeah, no.
$2 every 2 years.
Yeah, at the time I bought it, they said, oh, that's no big deal.
It is now.
It is not
Not
exactly.
for me, today. Mine's registered.
Okay, we will move on from the ATVs to the park board. Do we have, Brent, you're gonna give us information?
Good evening. As many of you know, for the last several months, the Lakeview Park Board has been developing a plan to prepare for the arrival of Emerald Ash Borer into our community. I will briefly recall some of the activities related to this project. Last November, M. Hannigan from the Iowa DNR Bureau of Forestry presented an urban forest management plan for the city of Lakeview to the Park Board and to members of the City Council. Mrs. Hannigan's plan emphasized the threats posed by emerald ash borer to the city's 283 public ash trees and recommended that the city prepare for the arrival of this pest by developing a plan for either the chemical treatment or the removal of ash trees. In the weeks following Mrs. Hannigan's presentation, the Lakeview Park Board met and weighed options for controlling emerald ash borer. The Park Board decided on a plan that can be whittled down to 4 main points. Number 1, inform residents of the threats from emerald ash borer. 2, monitor the health of ash trees and report any trees in decline. 3, remove ash trees before the arrival of emerald ash borer. 4, replace ash trees with a diverse mix of other tree species. The removal of ash trees is the key part of the plan that is decided upon after careful consideration. Other solutions, such as the treatment of ash trees with soil-applied systemic insecticides, were ruled out due to application restrictions and the risk of groundwater contamination. Another option of treating ash trees with trunk injections was decided to be prohibitively costly in terms of both time and money. Ultimately, the Park Board decided that the most efficient means for preparing for emerald ash borer is to remove ash trees. By starting the removal of ash trees before the arrival of the beetle into our area, we're aiming to spread out the cost of tree removal over a 10 to 15 year period, which would require the cutting of 20 to 28 trees per year. On January 7th, the Park Board submitted these recommendations to the City Council. Earlier this month, on May 3rd, the Park Board presented its plan at a public input meeting on the threat up from emerald ash borer in City Hall. 7 citizens attended this meeting, and many had questions about chemical treatments and the costs associated with those options. No opposition was expressed against the Park Board's recommendation for the early removal of public ash trees. Today, I'm asking the City Council to consider our proposals for the preparation of emerald ash borer. Our plan is a proactive policy that will hopefully provide us with a maximum time frame to spread out the cost of ash tree removal while mitigating the risk to property and personal safety posed by dying or dead trees. Unfortunately, the implementation of the plan will require considerably more money than our city's normal annual tree budget. For this reason, we are suggesting the emerald ash borer plan to be added as a separate budget item and the possible allocation of any budget surplus towards this project. We need to remember that the arrival of M-4 is not a question of if, but when. With our plan, the park board believes that it can soften the impact that the arrival of this destructive pest will have on our community. In closing, I'd like to thank everyone for their time and answer any questions anyone might have.
How many trees was that again that you recommended?
283.
Well, there's 283 public ash trees
Yeah,
total,
but per year.
but 20 to 28 in that time frame, or in that range. And that would be a 10 to 14 year. If you did 20, that'd take 10 years. 28 would be 14 years to clear them out.
What do you think typical cost of removing a tree would cost the city? Then you-
Varies considerably. The ones that city employees could do would be cheaper. Smaller ones would be cheaper, of course. Larger ones, it could be upwards of a few $100s. The total cost of cutting them, stump grinding them, and replacement could maybe be up to $400. And that's if you have a contractor come in too.
Because when we've done, used contractors, what we've done is, only for really big trees, we had a contractor come in and fell the tree for us, then we'd come in and actually clean it out.
So what are you gonna do with the woods going to the dump, or?
Probably most of it. If somebody wants
can go
wood for firewood or whatever, they could use it, but I mean, there's gonna be a lot of wood
A
that
lot
I
of people
assume
go
would.
in there to cut anyways, it doesn't matter, but, I mean, the city don't cut wood to sell.
No.
They raise under state quarantine anyway, so any wood would have to be used locally, so
Well, yeah.
we can't really sell it too far away if
No.
that would be the
Well,
option.
I was just thinking only the campgrounds.
Would you mark the trees? Are you gonna mark them?
You wrote the GPS located,
Yeah,
DNR did that.
30 marked on the,
Oh, they are.
on the plan, yeah.
I
So
guess
we
what I
don't-
was getting at is that if they're in GPS, Nat, Lon can go and pick out the ones he wants to cut down, the ones he don't, why?
We haven't bought a GPS locator deal yet.
Oh!
That'll happen.
We're getting closer, but we haven't got one yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't know how many are small enough for us to handle, or?
Oh, we have a pretty good idea on that report from the DNR. There's, if you look in the back part of it, there's on the various diameter of the trees. I think most were, I don't have it with me, most were kind of the mid-sized range. There's very few that were more than 40 inches diameter. I think for stump grinding costs, most of them would be like only like $40 or something like that. Based on, I think a stump grinding cost is, well, I guess I don't have those in front of me, so I won't mention any numbers. But
So you're talking roughly about $100,000 worth of tree removal.
Per year.
yeah,
I don't think you can get
Not
it
for all.
moved. You can't take a tree out for $400. Ain't no
That
way.
doesn't value our time
No.
when we do that.
Heck, what it cost us just to have them drop, we charged $800 just to drop them. And they still had to grind the stump, and we had to haul it away.
I was
You
gonna
can't
say
do it
closer
for
to
$400.
And plus, you know,
So I'm just trying to,
The tree
when we
down
talk
right
about
in
that,
front of the Redemption Center cost us $900.
We're looking out of pocket costs, you know, as far as dollars. Because a lot of it would have to be basically done by staff,
Yeah.
and.
When would we do that?
which we always get into
Well,
trouble then.
that's the next thing, guys. I mean, you know, and I don't wanna put a wrench into the deal, but, you know, the Iowa State gal knows what she's talking about. But if they're saying it's gonna take 15 years, let's put out 200 trees this year, plant 200 instead of cut down trees, let's plant 200 trees and get them growing before you start cutting every tree down in town. Look at the campground, guys. I mean, you keep cutting them down and cutting them down, you got nothing left. You go out 30 acres, and I think it's gonna start hurting your revenue at the campground big time, because 30 acres has got campers out the wazoo out there right
Oh, yeah.
now, and there's nothing down here. And I just think cutting them all down, I mean, we cut down maybe, what, 15 trees last year? And I mean, that's not just ash trees, that's everything. But we got maples dying. I mean, you ain't gonna have any trees left if you start cutting them down. You need to really plant trees
It's gonna
before
hurt
you
some
cut them
areas.
down.
it's gonna hurt some areas of the town.
There's no doubt. You
There's
go up to,
a lot of places where you got ash tree, ash tree, ash tree. That's the way they did it, you know, back in the day when.
well, Madison Street's that way. That's all ash.
Yeah,
on Madison Street.
that's true.
You won't have a tree left.
Yeah.
I got one you can start on. Cause it's bad. I mean,
What's a 10-foot tree cost? I guess I've never heard
A what?
10-foot tree.
Well, I don't know, but you know,
To buy a new one,
Yeah.
and you can get a decent, for sure, any type of bare root tree for $50, but even some of them potted.
what about going with
$2.50
the
on it.
AS, is it ASC office? What is that, Terry, that they used to do that tree deal?
I-
Where you
they
go with
do.
saplings, you know?
I think you're a little late this year.
Well, yeah, I think so too, but I mean, there's gotta be places where you can get
You
saplings.
could probably make a deal with
DNR or
that,
something like that.
like either Rome or Ingo, you know,
Yeah.
if he's got some sitting around that he'd wanna, cause it's getting that time where you ain't gonna plant trees too much.
Well, now
longer,
here's the next thing is, you know, you plant them, you still gotta have people to take care of them too.
you know?
They gotta be watered all the time, and I don't think that's, the time ain't there to do it, but.
See, the one they planted in my.
For us to
place,
cut
I
28
want-
down, 28 in a year is infeasible for the city to do it. Cause I mean, we don't get done what we got to do now.
It's
We're
a huge
cutting
problem,
trees
there's,
down.
and there's towns that are facing this problem, and they're having to hire full-time employees just to cut down trees.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. was-
So, it's something all to consider. But yeah, I agree with you.
You know-
It'll keep you busy. It'll add tons of work to you, but it's not gonna go away.
I can give you a list of the stuff you guys want us to do this summer, and there ain't nothing about cutting trees down, and you ain't gonna get it done.
I like Lon's suggestion of planting trees, you know, just as soon as possible, you know, I don't know, when's the best time to plant a tree in the fall?
Oh, no.
Fall's a good time.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
It'll
better
get the
time
roots.
right
It'll grow
now,
roots.
I think. So you get
You
your
know-
root into the ground
Yeah.
before it gets cold.
What about contacting, what is it, the Arbor Foundation?
Like the Arbor Day Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause we've
they're-
talked
they-
about
They
this.
give away a lot of trees and
Different
stuff.
trees
but-
forever.
That about,
I know they got a
like
problem with
basically
that.
starting a nursery, and they've actually tried this in the past and had a nursery out at the sewer plant.
Hmm.
And it's good, there's a good spot there to the north of it.
Lots of fertilizer out there
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Well, I think getting one, something too small though, I'm afraid the mowers will,
too.
you know.
We're planting.
Well, they got
trees
them
in spring.
grow tubes too, you know, if you put them in a grow tube,
That'd help.
We did
that, they
plant-
really grow fast in those too. You know, and a sapling's easier to get growing than a 10-foot tree.
Yeah, sometimes.
You know, they don't have to be watered as much.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, the gal from Iowa State, I'm sure she knows what she's talking about, but if it's gonna take 15 years,
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah,
It could be,
yeah, true,
it could be here
true.
already, and if it is, we will have a lot less than 15 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
So,
I'd agree with that.
But irregardless, you know, as much as it's costing, number one, we're gonna have to look at it at next budget year. You know, not this year,
Mhm.
as far as the money wise.
yeah.
You know, and during that time, you know, we could look at different resources as far as finding other trees to replace and get them started, as we're working on that. What do you think, or,
It sounds like a good plan.
you know, and then we'll have to consider, you know, is it something we could just contract out to somebody, or, which might be cheaper than hiring personnel to do it, because I agree with that too, you know, we don't have the
Yes.
staff to do it.
No, we don't
that's
have
one.
staff to do that.
What you have to do is come up with a plan, what size tree, what's the plan? So you're looking at, you have to budget planting so many, removing so many as you go along, and, we gotta come close to trying to find a dollar sign that you'd have to, and then whether, we'd have to decide is also whether we want to have the staff do it or have somebody private do it. So you got about 3 or 4 different options how you would wanna do that. And it's gonna come down to dollars and cents. Maybe this 14-year plan turns into a 20-year plan. So, you know, you got, I understand, I think you're gonna have to do a combination of both, plant and remove.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's kinda, you know,
Mhm.
do you, and that's something for discussion, I'm just throwing this out. Do you plant for every one you take out, you plant 3 or 4, you know what I'm saying? And there again, how you space them, where they're at. That's gonna take an in-depth plan, and it's gonna take an in-depth plan of whichever council we have here in the future. You know, we're looking down the road a ways, but if we gotta set something in motion that'll not go from year to year that we train, but we just say this is gonna be part of our budget, just like we do to replace a sewer pump, or, you know what I'm saying, when we,
Or vehicle or whatever.
whatever, so you're just gonna have to make that commitment and stick with it, not just now, but in the future, because like I said, it's, you gotta, and hopefully that it strings out long enough that we have some good size, and, yeah, there'll be some differences, but hopefully you can,
And one thing I think, you know, if we could keep it as local, I would think we'd be able to make, say like with Peters, Tim Peters, I would think we'd be able to make a deal with him cheaper than Snyder or Goody.
You know, I'm sure the local guys would be very interested in doing that.
Right, you know, that only thing is, I think it, you know, it ought to be kept local if we can, you know, because he does a good job, I mean, he cleans her up, when he's done, it's done, I mean, and
we just gotta decide what kind of money and what kind of city resources we could use, and so that's the big step.
So what if we directed Scott and the park board to come up with a plan that has dollar figures in it and come back to the council?
Like I said, I don't think there's nothing to get done this year, but we should have something for our next budget year, and present it that, you know, that we have a realistic goal, you know, like I said, we don't want to get here and say we gotta remove 280 trees all at once because they're all dead, but we should try to be proactive, I guess, instead of reactive.
And one thing about it is ash borer is gonna move into other trees if that green ash are dead.
No, it only affects ash trees, so I can't tell you why.
At least they're
It just-
picky.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something that, you know, we're gonna have to step up if the disease gets here, I guess we gotta be open.
Unfortunately, we're kind of at a high-risk community because we do have campers coming in, bringing in firewood and such,
So,
that's another consideration too.
Well, when you go to plant the little trees, check, make sure you don't plant them right beside a water shut off.
If we get a GPS by then, we'll find out where they're at.
I'm all ready.
You know, I went to a tree trim school, this has been quite a few years ago, probably 20 years ago, and that guy said a minimum of 2 trees for every tree you take out. So I plant 2 for every tree that you take out.
We always try to do that, and not to say that we can't, especially not here
That was a
recently, we
minimum.
removed 2. But, you know, we have consistently, over the years, we've always planted 20 trees. You know,
Yeah.
we get some grant funding from Trees Forever, and that's always been $1,000, now it's $1,500. And that's, but we've been buying some fairly big trees, so that's planting, say, 20 trees with that money.
But 20 trees is quite a few, if you're gonna take 20, maybe 20 or 28 out, you know, that's.
Yeah. But that's,
I'd say you need to do 60 trees though.
Yeah.
also you know, several of them won't make it every year, so you're replanting, you know, and it doesn't make as big a chunk as what you might hope for.
Well, something we're gonna have to look at down when we do budgeting, and we'll see if we can't figure out something.
where it
We
starts.
appreciate everybody's effort in the park board.
Yep.
definitely, and if there's a resource out there that, you know, like the Arbor Day Foundation thing that we can check, and maybe they have trees that. they
Well,
give
you know,
away
and
for
whether,
stuff
you know,
like
we can-
this.
Every
I'm sure
town
they're
has-
gonna be inundated, you know.
But, because we want to grow several different types of trees, you know, we want to really focus on the diversity
Yeah,
aspect of things.
that's the key of all these resources about emerald ash borer stress, is that diversity. Avoid, you know, having 20% of your urban forest in one tree species. And this way we can avoid this problem in the future, hopefully.
Not sure.
The other thing that is, excuse me, worse than ash trees in Lakeview is maple trees. We were like 40-some% maple. And we were
Yeah.
20%, 23% ash. So,
Because maple's an easy grower.
people like them.
Yeah.
You know, and here, you know, they got the red maples and autumn blaze maples, and everybody loves what those look like. And, you know, we get requests for those trees a lot.
We appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Keep working.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Missouri Valley had, every year, they used to have an auction. And some tree place could come in there with all their trees and had auction. I mean, once in a while you run into something like that. I don't know if they still do it or not.
Lon, before we get off trees, just for public consumption at the park or the campground, we didn't cut them down for the hell of it, we cut them down because
Oh, they're dead.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
just-
they're dead.
I just wanna make sure everybody
Yeah, they're
heard that.
dying.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not cutting them down, they're all dying down there, and them
Right.
are all silver maples that we've been cutting down.
and cottonwoods.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cottonwoods
Yeah.
too.
We just
The
didn't cut 'em
lightning
down
hit
for
one of
fun.
them this year.
I just wanna make sure everybody got that straight.
Nobody has a reputation of just being a tree cutter.
Some people have a different opinion.
Unlike the ones out front of the city. hall.
Yeah, yeah. Gary, you can go now.
I think your buzz is going
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that was, I can remember that meeting.
Oh, that's you do. I do too.
Yeah.
I'll bet you remember that.
Go ahead. Okay, ordinance 467, this is our third reading.
Be the third reading of this.
Board meters, we have a motion on ordinance 467. So move. Second,
No, second.
roll call.
Boltman.
Yes.
Huss.
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Cleveland.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
And we have a easement.
Yes, so. Just one second. That easement, let's take a look at, page 25 is that map. Can you kind of envision where this is at with John's building being built on that parcel in the back? Where it says North Shore, 15, 16, 17, those are all houses on North Shore. So the water main, sewer main, and power all run in back of those houses. Okay, we would need to be able to get water and electric service back to that property for John Drilling where his building is. Okay, this easement is for the area that's circled in red. That is, when you look at it, that's that access road back there. That's how John accesses his property. Okay, he has an access easement from Dennis, and then Dennis would give us this easement to be able to put water and power in there. The property owner is always responsible for their sewer service. This would propose a 10-foot easement. A little bit of give and take on this, that Denny Workmeister has asked that we would put in a sewer stub into his lot, which is down there. It just has a garage on it, and his camper sits there a lot of times, but it just has a garage there. And that we would stub sewer into the lot, not into the building at all, but just into the lot. It's 15 feet or whatever. As far as looking at our options to be able to provide service, it's really a good option, and it's some middle ground to help Dennis with something, and he'll give us the easement.
The thing is, I wanna have sewer too.
We're not doing anything with sewer though, Gus.
You're bringing it into his lot,
Oh, into Denny.
Yeah.
No.
and I would like to have it, and so would my neighbor. So, if he can have it, why can't we?
Gotta give you the 15-foot stub. I get your point, Gus, but like I'm saying, it's a give and take. There's no doubt. This is something unusual. That's why it's at the city council.
Because we're required to take utilities to that building, right?
Well, power we take to the building, water we take to the property line.
This is the only way we can do it. Unless there's no other
We've
option.
exhausted all other options as far
Yeah,
as.
we really have. Because as far as looking at willing landowners,
So then, if we okay that, how many other people like Gus and like his neighbor up there, will it be to come back and say, hey, we want sewer stub to our property too?
the extension of a sewer main's always been the responsibility of the developer. Okay, and
How
this is
come
not,
there
this is not
never-
a sewer main extension, it's a stub.
I wonder why there
It's
was
a service
never
stub.
sewer put in any of that property.
It has to do with the the logistics and the fall of it out there. I mean, there's a manhole behind the DNR office now, and they think they can make it work.
I mean, it's deep enough. It just needs to be a line run
That's it.
over to the property line.
Well, wouldn't it be better to have a sewer line than like septic tanks anyway?
Sure.
I mean,
But actually, we're not in compliance with the law. I mean, the ponds behind my house and the one out by the road, we're too close.
yeah.
But your situation, his is not apples to apples, it's apples and oranges.
Pretty close.
Well,
Around.
I remember permission to tear down an old house by the church.
See, you didn't kind of deal though.
No, I didn't. So, what kind of a deal is John gonna give you?
We have, we obligation, Gus. I know you maybe don't like it, but we have an obligation to
I know,
provide
but I'm
services.
saying, if they get a sewer, then I think I should get one over.
Just so long as everybody understands, it's always been developer's responsibility to extend sewer main.
From the stub.
No, from the rest of the main. You know, and this would be, it'd be either a long service line, and what he's talking about is Gus and Kevin Litter's house. You know, so it's either a long service line for the two of them, which is always private, or it's an extension of the sewer main, which has always been done by the developer.
we're not doing a sewer, just putting a stub in for Denny.
Yeah.
We're obligated to put it into drillings. We're not obligated to do Gus's, right?
But he's,
Yeah, I mean, really, we're not obligated, no, that's,
but the sewer line only goes, he has to do it from the property line, or
From that curb stop.
from the curb stop.
yeah, for water,
For the
yeah.
sewer.
And for, you're
No.
talking about John?
The sewer goes clear to the line.
To the main, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, property owner's responsible for the service line clear to the main. Which gets into some situations because they're responsible clear to the main, even if the main's on the other side of the street. And it happens in town sometimes, you know, they end up with a lot of street work.
But the reason we're considering drillings, again, is because that's the only way, and we've exhausted all other options to get service to the drilling building.
Yeah, because, you know, as you start at the right side of the picture, 20 is Henry Horst, 19 is,
Okay,
or the one to the left of that is Thomas Sherry Logren. And the other one next to that now is a wooded lot. Workmeister owns it today, but I understand that Josh Drilling is buying it.
okay. So what are the ramifications if we say, hey, to drilling, you know, we can't do that?
The city has, I believe, the city has an obligation to provide water and power.
But not sewer.
Yeah, we don't provide sewer. He's on his own for sewer.
Okay, so why are we extending it?
We're not.
Well, that's for
It's
Denny.
it's for Denny Workmeister.
Right, okay.
It's the give and
We're letting
take
them go up the-
for Denny giving us this easement. The John's water and sewer service are installed on Denny's property.
Okay, so
Or water and electric services on Denny's
So we
property.
wouldn't be able to get the water and electricity to Drilling's building without this easement, is what you're saying.
True, yep.
And he won't give us the easement if we don't
Put in the stub.
put in that stuff.
Yeah.
So he's got us kinda,
What if we wait till Josh buys it and say, you put it on your kids, and get your easement from your kid, then we don't have to mess with Denny.
I've talked with John about it. Then I've talked with him, because I'd heard John was buying the property. You buying the property? No. Well, no, I'm not buying the property, Josh is. Josh doesn't want utilities running on his property. The easement would shrink it up to where it's not usable for the width to do anything. You know, there's an explanation for everything.
Sure.
Well, I think another thing that we're not overlooking is John put that electric meter inside the garage. I don't think we ought to do anything until he moves it out on the outside. If they would have a fire in that house, there's no way for him to quick unhook it, everything. I mean, it's a safety thing is what it is,
There's a meter inside the building?
inside the garage,
Yeah.
yeah.
We had that issue with this house years ago.
That's the one.
Oh, he moved it out, didn't he?
No, we allowed him to have it there. It was approved that it could be there.
So we backed ourselves into a corner.
Sure.
It sounds to me like, Mr. John's got everything a little bit figured out.
Well, that might really be, but all I'm looking at is that the
Yeah.
city's gotta provide him service somehow.
Yeah.
And we're sure here to finish it off though. We bring it up to where we're supposed to then,
Right.
finish
Well,
it.
sure, I mean, with
So-
power, with power, we provide it to the building.
So what's the cost of providing that sewer up to that point, roughly?
To which, okay, again, which sewer?
That's John.
Four.
Yes.
Workmeisters.
You're talking about that stub out in the garage?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it, $300 worth of materials and a half a day of work?
And it'll take a day to work, cause you
So
gotta
what's
cross every
the
line. to
legal
get through.
ramifications if we get sued?
It's 12 foot deep, guys.
You guys, I guess you could cross your own bridge on that if you want. I think it's terrible policy. We have an obligation to serve. We found a way that this can happen with an agreement amongst the parties at relatively minimal cost.
I'll agree to it, but I want sewer too, to my property line.
Talk amongst yourselves then, Gus, and you're going against city policy on it.
I don't know, Wes, I feel your pain, and I see where you're coming from on that, but I think, because some mistakes were made in the past, we can't help that right now.
No, I know that, I understand what the deal is, but I feel I've done enough for the city. I've okayed you to put a sign up on my property, okayed for the trees to be put in there, used my property when you tore down the house. I've worked with you guys. What has John done?
Okay?
Nobody's contesting that you didn't do that, Gus.
I
Everybody
know.
knows you're a good guy.
But I'm just saying, if you're gonna do it for, put the sewer in out there, I want it run to my place.
We probably have to vote for that. We'd have to vote on this tonight, and then you'll have to bring it up at a different time on the agenda if the council wants to do that.
So,
Then we're setting precedents all over
Right.
again.
That's what I was thinking. We're sitting
We can't just say, oh, we can't give it unless we're gonna give Gus a sewer. We need to fix this problem now.
is it gonna be,
And then we'll work on your sewer on a different day, but somehow we gotta fix
but
this.
is it gonna make our well water better or anything like for where your septic tanks are?
On the
I mean,
well.
is there any wells close there?
Well water, no, but lake water, it's,
Yeah, like-
we wanna get rid of all of those around the lake.
I know, I figured that. So what do you figure, like his deal, was that cost probably?
Oh, Jesus, that'd be,
For, just to put Denny's in, and
No.
days,
Like
for
us?
his, it's gotta be 600 feet, yes?
I don't know.
I'm done. Well, that manhole is, see, that manhole, I don't know that it's cities, it's actually DNR manhole. And I'm not sure about that, but I think the DNR paid to redo that line, Scott, down there, part of it,
Yeah, they did.
through their property. And that was where the bad part was in their property, so they put that new line in there probably 6-7 years ago, maybe.
Mhm.
But, my thing with this deal with Denny is, if you do it for Denny, is John gonna come back and say, hey, you gave him a sewer line, I want mine in here? And that could happen. Yeah, and I know your policy, I know city policy, and we cut a deal with Denny, but just so that don't happen.
I guess just the rationale is to get something in return, because what
Yeah.
we get in return is the easement.
Mhm.
It's not completely unprecedented. We paid $1,000 for an easement before that we really needed.
And I mean, we could put the sewer in, that's no, I mean, it's a day's work and it's deep, I mean, it's a deep one.
Yeah.
The water main's there, all this new fiber and everything, so it'll take a while, but.
If we're talking about this easement tonight, Gus, we can always talk about yours in a different, it's not quite fair to hold the city hostage on, you're only one vote in the deal here tonight, you gotta know
I
that.
know,
Nobody disagrees that you'd like to have that.
that's getting to where.
And
you know,
nobody
there's-
disagrees that you've done a lot for the city.
And how soon are you
Serious
looking
about
at the new
that.
sewer line around, that then you said needs to be done around the lake? How soon are we looking at that? You know, like,
Yes?
well,
No,
no, but like the,
For the
I
line
think
that's
you're
going
talking
across the
Van
lake.
Meverens and bringing everything to the, right? We was,
I don't know.
oh,
Oh, when we were talking
Ben-
about that
That's a whole
before?
different-
yeah, Ben talked to me, early this spring, what we've done, and I said, we haven't done anything, we're kinda letting it up to you guys, because you're the one that wants it moved, so we want you to pay for it.
mhm,
And he said, well, I don't think that's gonna happen.
mhm.
But that was the end of the conversation.
Well, I was just wondering how soon, you know, that, there, if there's talk of that, how soon that's gonna happen, because then it would be an easier time to hook.
Well, they're talking 5 years for the dredging.
I'm just so afraid we're gonna open up this big can of worms. You know,
But I can see where you're coming from.
Worms have
John,
happened here
saying,
in the past.
well, my son's got a camper, he wants to.
Not all of them are good, not all
When he
bad.
comes home.
I'd rather put that stub in than give him $1,000 easement. Jerry, where you at on this?
But I don't think he wants $1,000 easement, does he?
No, he wants the stub put in.
Right.
lots of stuff.
Yeah. Jerry's been around a long time. We've had these before. Didn't say it was easy to swallow, I'm just saying we've had these before.
They're basically two different issues.
Yes. And the issue tonight is we're gonna get the stub.
You know, I mean, like you said, we're setting a precedent, so it's the only drawback on it. I mean, you know, we allow it, then we're gonna have to continue to allow it.
So-
You know, I guess, Jerry, my only thing on that is, when you say we'd have to continue to allow it, is when the city receives something in return. Because we do get something in return. You know, it's not that we would provide a stub for everybody.
Just because they want a stub, that if they're, we don't need an easement, why would we do it for somebody?
Or,
We're not getting anything out of it.
or it costs, roughly $500 for the city to put in the stub. So, what if we paid $500 to them, for the easement, and then in turn they paid us back to put in the stub?
I don't
We're
think
doing
that's
the
what
same
Danny
thing.
wants.
I mean,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's the
just a
same
money
thing.
push, but
It's
yeah.
just- So then you
I don't think
could,
it's
then you could say
money.
the city's not doing it without
Charging.
you know,
Sewer in.
Yeah.
It's so
we-
much a lift station, guys.
I don't know.
Mhm.
It ain't, you know, he's getting by that part of it too. Cause it's what, how much per lift station? It's going through 5 lift stations.
For Denny,
Yeah.
that's an existing plat, a lot, it's
Oh.
a plot.
Okay.
We
How
gotta
long
do
you been
something.
fighting with them, Scott?
Pardon me?
How long you been fighting with this?
Oh, this has been going on.
Quite a long time.
Yeah.
Since last fall.
Yeah. I mean,
However you feel about any of the parties makes no difference. We're trying to provide service that we're obligated to provide, and we've found a way to do it. As unpalatable as it may seem to some, it seems,
And we can't provide that
No.
service any other way. It's
No.
the bottom line.
Yeah.
That we're obligated.
You know, I can't say no other way, because there are other ways to it, whether it's condemnation, or
Which
whether-
would be expensive to do.
or to explore some other legal issues in regards to this back portion of the lot in a previous platting. You know, there's some
That-
legal
that
issues
could
to
get-
explore, and I just don't know that we really want to go there.
Usually more expensive than what we're talking about now.
And does drilling pay for a water hookup then?
Everybody plays for a tap. Yeah.
Yeah.
where's our legal advice tonight?
Her kid's graduating from 8th grade at Kemper. She did call.
Guess we don't want to ask for any legal advice on this.
I had her review the easement, though, and she was okay with the easement.
It boils down
so
to.
I'd like to
everybody-
make I ain't gonna sit here all night.
No,
Discuss.
that's beside.
I'm gonna make a motion that we do as what needs to be done here and get it out of our hair, that's as far as I'm concerned.
So isn't that to approve the easement?
Easement and the stud to take care of things, and we'll have to deal with Festus and everything.
I'll second that because we don't have any other choices and it's the least expensive choice.
Okay, roll call?
Reese?
Yes.
Bolton?
Yes.
Stankin?
Yes.
Huss?
Yes,
Cleveland?
This ain't gonna make any difference, is it? Okay.
Because Gus, at the end of the day,
But that's a yes?
Yes.
yeah, at the end of the day, Gus, I'm gonna thank you for working on Friday to help put the parks together, the speaker park. We
I
appreciate
had a
it.
hard time sleeping when I got in bed that night.
Did ya?
I had aches and pains.
And Scott worked, I know this for the city on Friday, but he came on Saturday, and so did Brian. We appreciate you again, Gus. The thank you card's in the mail.
It really might be.
with a tube of Big Gay.
Speaking of Ben Gay, Lon? That's a good word.
Speaking of that, yeah, Lon.
I saw him walk this morning, he didn't walk really good.
Let's start with that lift station out there, out by Reggie Rohrbeck's on the east side. I've got the preliminary stuff done on that. We're looking at about 22,000, and that's using our manhole. The information that he had was wrong, and so he resized them, and we can put 3-horse pumps, 2 3-horse pumps in that 4-foot pit. Water depth isn't an issue because it only runs 5 hours a week. So, he's still looking at trying to get a price on one pump just to replace the pump that's there, but he's not having much success. The company that I was dealing with isn't returning his calls because he said there really isn't nothing available right now. So, but he's still working on that. He's gonna be getting back to me, I'd say next week, maybe sometime. So that's where we are on that. The next thing is we're gonna be working on a, what's her name, Scott, down there? Schaefer. If you guys go down there, there's 2 tile lines, there's 2 storm drains in the alley. And there's 2 6-inch tile that go down underneath the sidewalks to the lake and dump into the lake. Since they've dug the hole, it's exposed all that tile. And they're 1 foot field tile, 1 foot long field tiles, 6-inch field tiles. So every time it rains, the water's oozing out of those seams now, and it collapsed the bank underneath the sidewalk. So, not that it's the city's fault, but the fix I think for the city is to eliminate the 1 tile to the north, and we're gonna cut down through the alley, which is about, I think it was 43 feet. We'll have to redo each manhole, storm drain manhole, and then we'll run a 10-inch tile down through, which that gives us 25% more capacity than what the 2 6-inchers are. I had looked at 8, and then we're actually 10% less than what's there, so we want to go upsize it. And we're going to use, where Kevin has dug the basement out, they poured the footings, and our pipe will be about 6 inches below the floor on this new house so that we won't be flooding that house. Because if we leave the tile that's there, they're gonna come back and say, hey, the city's flooding my basement now. So I'm looking at going with some SDR 35, and it's a solid pipe, and it's a gasketed pipe. That's what they use for sewer line. But we can run this storm water through it. And the grade is such that we can get it to go to the lake by using the footing off of their basement. We're actually going to be about 8-10 inches below their footing, but it's cut with 2 inches or 2/10 of grade going toward the lake. So we should be able to just lay that pipe in there. Now we'll have to rent a mini excavator, and when we get down there, we'll have to tear out some sidewalk and stuff. But Scott and I and the mayor talked to Kevin about this. Would Schaefer's be willing, if we put a whole new tile in there, would they be willing to do all the concrete work, including the concrete in the alley between the two drains? And they've agreed to that. There's 2 rain gutters that drain into there too, and that's gonna be up to them to get it to that, Kevin will get it to the new storm drain. And then we'll dump it all through there and bring it down that way. And that way we eliminate the tile on the north. We got a brand new tile that's 25% larger than what we had, so we shouldn't have any problems. And, am I forgetting anything, Scott? I think that's it. Oh, I've got a cost estimate coming from HD Supply out of Des Moines on the pipe. They were supposed to fax it. I don't know if we got the fax today or
No,
not. So.
not that at all. Just be thinking in terms of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah. And this is something that has to be done fairly soon because they're putting forms on the basement now, and if we get a big rain and that bank caves in, there ain't no way to dig it out. So I'd really like to order pipe here pretty quick.
HD is about the cheapest place you can get pipe.
That's the only one I've called, Gus, is HD right now. But, you know, there's Brown Supply I could give a call to too, and Anderson, or not Anderson, Ferguson. But,
Wasting your time.
well, there you go. You know, HD's got the stuff on
Yeah.
hand. That's why I gave them a call.
Yeah.
So they usually have what we need.
It was so much cheaper. than
I am gonna put a
everybody
T in the line so that the house to the south can hook their gutter into it if they want to. Their rain gutter goes down and into that 5-inch tile, so, but that's a homeowner deal, so I'm figuring Kevin's gonna have to do that. But I will put a T in the line so it's ready for it.
You're done?
That's that.
Get her done, yeah.
Okay,
Yes, get her done.
all right,
Possible, it's supposed to rain tonight.
all right.
They're putting the walls up right now.
You know,
Yeah, I know.
now, Tim Laney up there by the lumber yard, every time it rains, we had that little 2/10 rain today, that street's flooded again. And we took the vac truck up there and vacked out both the manholes and everything, but there's a T out in the middle of the street, I think, that runs toward 5th Street. And we may have to dig that up and do some tile work there. But I talked to Tim today and told him don't look for anything real fast.
Can you, get a hold of, what's his name in Wall Lake, and get the camera down there?
Possibly, at least we could know where to dig in the street, but I think I can tell because it's settled, the street's settled there. So I think that'd be the obvious places where the T is. Like Tim said, he said the water will sit there for an hour and then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. Just like it gets an airlock in it or something, but there's a 3-foot by 3-foot square tile that goes down that way on 5th Street, you know. It's gotta dump into there. As far as I know, I mean, without digging, we won't know.
They said come down pretty fast this morning.
Yeah, you can't use the jetter on that?
Well, it isn't a problem of going between the two. It's out in the middle of the street where there's no manhole access
The
to it.
jetter's there.
Yep, we've
Oh.
used the jetter and that's the good news, it worked.
Well,
We had a
that's
plug
good
out on
news.
Crescent Park Drive and we got right through it, so it
Good.
worked good.
That don't have eyes, so.
Huh?
That don't have eyes.
No, no,
One of these days soon,
yeah.
Yeah.
we're gonna need it.
Anyway, that worked pretty good, so,
Have it ready for the weekend, other than wood chip, you know. I think we'll get the P-rock spread back out and have it open, but just know that the wood chips still have to be applied.
hopefully we'll have it so people can use it anyway.
There was a lot of people using it last weekend.
I know it. The tape ain't doing the job.
And we appreciate all the volunteers that came Friday and
Yeah, that
Saturday.
worked out good.
It rained on us a couple times on Saturday.
Yeah.
And some lady, I don't know her name, brought us pizza Saturday for dinner, everybody was helped.
Very lovely.
I thought that was pretty good, so.
Lon is giving tour of the sewer plant to the high schools, some high school students on Wednesday, I think.
Wednesday, yep, 11 o'clock.
And I got a request today. The request is from Jamie Coons. You know where Jamie lives, on the highway, place to the north. Jamie's house is out of the city limits. Could he hook up to city water? We have an ordinance that's been in place ever since we did this annexation around the lake, that just simply says no new hookups outside the city limits. So I said, you know, we have this ordinance in place, you know, we really couldn't do anything for you, we could talk about it. But
That seems funny, don't it?
Well, I don't know why they did the ordinance that time, but
because we got in such hot water about this annexation, it was so tough, there was no incentive for anybody to annex because they could receive all of the city
I
services.
mean, I can't believe that house isn't city water and,
Yeah,
So would they have any objection to be in annex?
sure, they would prefer just to have city water and,
but it was at a cost of 150%,
yeah,
wasn't it?
anybody who does still have water outside of the city limits, and there's some out around the lake.
Then we run water up to
150%.
Gold Pierce's.
yeah.
Yeah, Bob Wells.
His,
Mhm.
his meter's down there actually north of Jeff Cross's house.
Right, but we didn't run water out there.
Yeah,
Or-
but that was before we implemented this ordinance.
But where's that line run?
Up to
Lowell's?
Wells's?
No, up for Prudence.
There's a line down there in the ditch, that, it dead ends there, that fed the, car wash.
He thought, I talked to him a little bit today when I was on my way home. He called me. And I told him I'd check into it, but he thought the line was up his lane a little bit.
No,
He looked at, and he went out and looked at this fire hydrant, he said there's a fire hydrant, say about 80 feet to the east of his lane. And that must be the end of the line.
that's the dead end right there. You know, we were always gonna hook it up, there's another fire hydrant, you know, if Larry Hauser's development deal ever got going, that probably should be finished down through there, cross connect, have a cross connect in there, a loop feed. But, it stops at the end of, the Thirsty Cart. So there's probably 600, 700 feet in there that isn't done yet.
So we
So
just
how's
look
that
at the
coming?
ordinance?
You know, we have the ordinance that says no new hookups. I mean, it's not really like you can waive the ordinance, you have to basically get rid of the ordinance. But,
I never did.
or he abuts the city limits right now, he could, procedurally, it'd be very easy to annex if he wants to.
Sure. So how's Larry Hauser's deal coming? Is that ever getting any further, or?
A little bit, and I don't hear too much about it, although I did talk with the developer about site plans here a week or two ago. Just getting them information on the site plan process. Anyway, Ed, the idea with Jamie, any interest in letting them have water, or would he have to annex?
Why wouldn't you want to annex?
Taxes go up.
Oh, well,
I think it would.
but look at all the benefits he gets from the city.
Right.
He gets a big
Police
bucket.
protection, you betcha.
Well, if we're good for one, then Gus will want us to do that too.
I got the water
Oh,
already.
Or then he'll want.
Got the water and electricity and
But I think we have to go by the ordinance. The ordinance is there in place for a reason.
Yep.
And I think we have,
Yeah,
I'm
understood.
sure that we have to abide by the ordinance.
Everybody happy with that?
Yep, I think too, letting that annex.
No more sewer news? No more sewer news?
That way he can hook up to the sewer if he wants to.
Yeah,
Yeah, he could down there. Joyce Moore's talking about hooking up the sewer, but she's in city limits, isn't she?
Yeah.
She talked to me the other day about it again.
Jamie's house, actually, if you go up his lane and the lane is clear to the end and it starts to widen out a little bit, right there is the city limit line in his house.
Oh, is that
We-
right?
I would measure, it's like 80 foot outside the city
Oh.
limits is where his house is.
Well, really, yeah, I think probably better off anyway to have it, you know, than
But-
the annex, I mean,
Yeah, but there's very little difference, you know,
probably
you
not.
know, and there's not actually too much difference in taxes.
Do we have any city administrator report?
Nope, we did the playground. Our summer staff has basically all started. Matt had started a few days ago. Cameron and Jamie started today. Campground staff, they're up and running, and then lifeguards will start on Saturday.
And something Sunday, Whitey has the tickets. It really look good if the city had everybody out there. The Blackhawk Lake Association has that program at Ryan's on Sunday from 2 to 5.
When it tells you, it's $25 a couple, 20 if you wanna come by yourself. There'll be hors d'oeuvres, you can get a drink. There's gonna be presentations by the, Ben about what their plans are. If they have to treat the water, they've got chemical to it if the grasshopper gets there, so if there's an opportunity to learn a little bit, he went over some of the stuff that was going on, and there'll be some drawings, there'll be some other stuff, other information there, so if you guys want tickets, give me a call. I'll sure drop some off or whatever, so, but
Can we get tickets there, or?
you can get tickets there if you want to, yes.
you get a
But I'm
commission
supposed
if you buy
to,
'em?
no, I just gotta sell somebody.
They help Whitey out.
Otherwise, he's gotta buy them.
I'll get them there then.
Attaboy, I can remember things.
There you go.
What,
Guys, you might wanna buy some tickets.
what is that?
That's Sunday.
Sunday, 2 to 5, you
Is
said?
this coming?
Yep.
Yep.
You're sitting in about the same situation I am.
I got graduations.
That's all right, we'll still take your donation, that's not a problem, that's what it's about.
Oh, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Sure it is. It's
That's it.
fundraiser, you
It's
betcha.
fundraising.
I was thinking about that one drink.
Get that
Bring
to
your
go.
wife, you got two. She can just sit in the corner.
Yeah. She'll drink mine, probably.
Is that all you got?
Just other than it was in the memo about the update on the grasshopper machine, that it's still under construction, and it gave you kind of the update about exactly where it is in the construction process, but still looking mid to late June for delivery date on the machine.
Any luck with applications on?
2.
I have 2 applicants.
Could we hire one of those right away so we don't go somewhere else and get Ron using? Otherwise, we may lose these people if they've only got 2.
Yeah, but they're,
Who is
they're
it?
fully aware when we're gonna get the harvester?
Is that one
Yeah.
applicant of Beckman?
No. Oh, excuse me, I got 3 applications, yeah.
Okay, yeah, 'cause that one is
and,
out.
Yeah,
He'll be in the hospital most of the summer.
Jason would have been a pretty decent
Yeah.
employee. Jason had applied, but he's out of the mix.
Who was the other one, Scott, you were talking about?
I'll tell you here. Let me show you.
Is that all you got?
Yeah.
Meeting to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Okay.
Meeting adjourned.